it's Rita with Everything Homemade, and we are once again in the garden. This evening we're going to be planting in the entire cabbage family. So the broccoli, the cauliflower, cabbage, and the kale. These two rows are designated for the cabbage family, and then we have another row closer to the cucumbers that I'm going to do an experiment this year on the cabbage to see if it will work, and I'll go more in depth once we get to that particular row. So what Orion is doing here, he's actually bringing me some manure because these two particular beds are just awful. The dirt is heavy clay, and for some reason this side of the garden the dirt just isn't great. So we are dumping fresh manure in here because the cabbage family are heavy feeders and they need rich soil to grow well. So the first step is we're going to condition the dirt. We're going to mix this all together. Then we are going to transplant the plants in. So we have a new system here that I'm going to give a try this year, and this company makes hoops with a fabric mesh that is small enough that even carrot fly can't go through here. It just prevents everything from basically eating up your garden row. So we're going to put this over a cabbage on these two rows to see how it does. All we did was pull it up. You saw that, so we could plant here. Now it's pretty flexible, it's really light-weighted, so if my plants start pushing on it, it shouldn't be bad. I guess we'll see how it goes. So the first thing we're going to plant in is kale. And you can plant kale in really close. So, I mean, within, let's say 6 inches of each other, you can definitely plant in. So we are going to do that. So Nova, you can use, I keep forgetting my spoon, but basically I'm just going to give you a plant and just start putting them in. So here's 2. Make a hole here first. So basically, I'm just going to work the dirt. I'm kind of just going to make a straight line across with my shovel. I'm going to try to remove these clumps. Like I said, the dirt here is just awful. And then I'm going to take my 2 kale plants here, kind of separate them, and just start putting them in. The biggest challenge with this dirt is all the clay clumps, and that's why we continue to condition it. We're planting not in perfect dirt, that is for sure, but you can definitely, I see the progress, and it's gonna take some time.
Can I have a kale plant?
Yep. And I just want to say too that I'm planting in the evening. One reason I'm planting in the evening is because this is the cabbage family, and cabbage family really doesn't do well with the heat. And when I transplant, if I'm transplanting in the heat, they'll go into shock. They'll just droop. And while I did that with the tomatoes are heat loving, and so they will pick up quicker, but I could completely kill my cabbage plants, especially with the heat we're having. So I'm planting in the evening. That way they have all night to come out of shock and be ready to go in the morning. Okay, so Nova is just finishing the last few, and the first ones we did, you see how they're drooping? This is where you do not want to panic, okay? They're going to droop a bit. And if you see the ones that we just put in, they're up right now, but they're going to droop in about 10 minutes. This is why we're doing in the evening. They're under shock, okay? So we're going to water them in. And hopefully by the end of our planting, the first ones will be out of shock. The kale is in. It's watered, it's under shock, but I'll show you what it looks like when we're done planting here. If we're flicking our hands, it's because it's mosquito-y outside right now. So right now, this is head cabbage, and we're not going to plant every single plant that has grown. I always plant extra, and the reason for it is because I like to bless other people. I can start plants and some people can't. And so all the extra tomato plants, the cabbage plants, anything extra that I have, I just go on Facebook, and to my area I just post a free ad of plants, and usually within a day I have blessed several families with plants, and I love doing that. I like putting a smile on people's face. So that's what I'm doing with the extra plants. Now, cabbage Nova, let's go. Boys, we're gonna be eaten alive here. Woo!
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, how are we doing it, John?
So the cabbage, we're doing it the same way, only we're not spacing as close. This is a 2-foot width of a row, and we're actually only gonna put a foot distance in between. So because they are gonna be heads, so you gotta imagine a head here and here. So we're only gonna put 2. Okay? So let's go. So this is what I'm using if you guys want to look it up on Amazon. Here. Okay, so again, we got a whole tray full of broccoli, way too many, but like I said, all the extras are gonna go to somebody else. So we're gonna keep on going. We're gonna finish off here with a little bit of broccoli, and then we're gonna put everything else into the experimental row. And so I know for next year which way really works the best where we live. So we are done with planting here. We're going to water these ones, but as Nova waters, look back. We're only about, like I said, 30 minutes later, and look at the kale. Okay, its heads are up. So that didn't take long. And this is why we did it in the evening. If I would have planted my kale and my plants in the hot sun, they might have actually never made it because it's too much of a shock. But 30 minutes later, and you'll see that all the plants, they have all their heads up and they're happy. So don't yourself go into shock when you see your plants droop like that. They will pop their heads up. The biggest thing, plant in the evening, water them in good, and have just a little bit of patience. Okay, so we are doing the experimental row here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to plant some cabbage, some broccoli, and some cauliflower into this row. But in between all the plants, I'm going to put marigolds all the way in between. And what it's supposed to do is be enough to deter the white butterflies. Now, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but there's a U-pick that does it all the time that's about 15 minutes away from here. And they say they don't spray their crops or anything, they just use the marigolds. So I'm going to put it to the test. I want to see if it'll actually work. So between this way and the actual putting on the netting, I really want to see which way I like better and which way actually works. So let's find out. So we're going to do the same thing here and plant in. I'm just going to worry about planting in the cabbage tonight, and then we will add in the marigolds in the morning. So that is all we're going to do for tonight. Tomorrow morning we're going to plant in the marigolds, actually into the lettuce row and into this row here. And that only leaves us with the herbs left, and we're going to tackle that tomorrow, and then we should be done planting, minus the peppers in the pot, but I'm going to just wait on that for a couple of days yet. So right now we're going to close up the garden. We're going to close up the cucumbers, the zucchini. We're going to wrap the plastic back over everything. It's nice right now, and the reason why we do that, even though it's probably going to be a half decent evening, is to lock in the heat. So there's not so much temperature change, so they still grow overnight. Years ago I was told that it needs to be 15 degrees Celsius or warmer at night for the plants to continue to grow at night. So it's really important to keep those warm loving plants warm at night so they don't stop growing. And that's a key thing with the plastic also. It's to trap the warmth. So I'm going to just rinse my hands off. I'm going to put the plastic on everything, and I'm going to call it a night. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it is the late morning, and I'm back in the garden to plant in the marigolds, and that'll be the last thing in the garden. Then we're going to move on to the herbs in a different bed, and then lastly plant the peppers into pots that are going to live on the catio. So all the plants we planted last night look awesome. Nobody's drooping this morning. It's the heat of the day is coming on, and they're still looking good. Just make sure that everything stays well watered. So I'm going to put the marigolds in the middle and water them in, And that will conclude this particular episode. Now these are really cool marigolds. They bloom yellow, but instead of one big flower top, like you see typical marigolds when you think of marigolds, these are the really old-fashioned marigold before they did the hybrids, and they kind of grow in a ball. Like there's hundreds of little flowers on them. They're really pretty, but that's why I left this space, because they'll fill this out quite a bit, and I'm hoping that because one plant is so much bigger, I can get away with just having two in between, but we'll see what happens. So the marigolds are in, and I'm really interested to see how this test plot will work. I'm also interested to see how well the netting works over the cabbage between the two. And on the other hand, I also just thought about it, I have my cucumbers right here. And in July, when they start to flower, I'm actually going to be removing the plastic because they won't need it anymore. But I have all of these marigolds flowering. So that will really help attract the bees to the cucumbers. So it's actually going to work really well in that aspect. My biggest question is, how well will it deter the cabbage moth from the cabbage? So you'll see I will be posting weekly updates, so you'll definitely be hearing the progress. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.